what to do in the meantime, and why it doesn't matter. The audiobook by Dr. Michael Richard Lucas. Narrated by me, Samantha. Arranged and produced by Michael Richard Lucas. Chapter 7. How to Survive a Shitstorm. A minimum wage must appear undesirable. It must be a punishment to those who need it most. An hourly wage ensures an hourly obedience. During our characters' space-time they would have used a minutely wage, if it didn't look too much like the word minutely, reminding the employees of minute paychecks. If you're late by minutes, you don't get the full hour. What if the kid at table 3 doesn't get their tater tots within 5 minutes? When I worked at a restaurant, I did everything on time, and in the snow. Both ways, they didn't. We are socially conditioned to be racists and classist, even when it hurts us most. We don't want to be like the people around us. We keep going. We will surpass the people around us one fine day, if we work hard enough, etc. If you make the bottom nearly bottomless, people can see how far others can fall. Overdosing, suicide, shooting up a school, etc. People need a constant reminder to keep them motivated. The news helps. If the bottom were merely being momentarily unhappy, poor people wouldn't constantly put themselves into an anxious, feverish work mode. But again, all of this benefits the people at the top. If money doesn't buy happiness, give me yours. Fame was fleeting, the fleeting flame of fame. In the Hall of Lame, nobody understood what our character's book was doing. Smart people only liked something if smarter people liked it. Stupid people were at least spared from this. Almost. In the end, our character didn't like their audience. Who could blame them? And their audience soon forgot about them forever. At times our characters should have been more insertive. At times they should have been less insertive. Our character was on the brink of grasping the question, can our character be self-aware enough to guide themselves through the perfection of a task, but not self-aware enough to make themselves paralyzed? Limoncellos. New generation has run out of things to pretend to have invented. iPhone storage bane of our character's existence. The trick to being quick is the silence of your movements. Calisthenics are key. Our character planned on eating as much as possible every day, and run sprints as fast as they could, every day, all day, and do that forever. They wanted to be an unstoppable wrecking ball of a person. Do at least one smelly thing a day. British version was better. Our characters' versions of grandeur weren't burst, best or worst. They simply hoped there was another level, another day. In the back of their head, they knew this all along. The people our character was with were just as silly as any group of people, but these people did it in fancier clothes and used bigger words. It didn't come as a surprise to our character. They weren't naive. They wanted a goal to work toward, a reason to be working so hard. At the end, a payoff. They always knew this was a mirage, a curtain hiding the emptiness behind it. Currently, as far as we knew, our character's personality is based solely on all the drugs I take. They take. Opinions overrated. We need a quicker way of getting dirt off our feet. Shoes. Our character was always trying to eat right. If you ride around in shiny fast car with big boom boom guns, you're bound to kill someone, especially if you get paid. Police should be more like AAA, OnStar, tow trucks, EMTs, and less like Cobra Commander Team America. The police should help us, not kill us. You know, like firefighters and paramedics. Lottery still main healthcare provider in freest nation. Our character blamed their sudden lack of motivation on nothing motivating them. Our characters started forwarding all their bills and debts to the universities supposed to have provided them a career. When everything gets old, there will be something new. The classics gone badly. These standards always tragically self-selecting. There is so much more we have yet to unlearn about ourselves, our character, their world, and ours. There will always be a now our character would be able to learn from. Perhaps that was comforting, in and of itself. Per se, space-time is learning. Learning is space-time. Faster than the awareness of space-time, the speed of light, etc. That you are in this body. Pre-remembering. What are the top 5 things you are? You are not those things. What are you now? Repeat. When we realize we are all living in one person's world, we are going to invade your country, because you want to join the UN, to protect you from us invading your country, sent back decades. For a moment, we were able to forget about this way of being. We were able to write about it, and talk about it. But once again, here we are. Now, it was always going to be like this. Our character's friend was a filmmaker. They made a film with an intro montage, allowing their audience to assume they were watching an intro montage, but the film remains at this pace for its entirety. Note to self, maybe that will be the title of the film our character's friend was making. Do you want to autofill your CV resume by uploading a file to your application? Yes. Is this correct? First and last name of applicant. University College App 3142. Previous employer number 3. PhD skills. In PowerPoint App 3142. 5 years of MA. Georgia. Reference Dr. Microsoft Word. Proficient in Spanish. California 3 years 2015. Published papers. Included other documents. Are you a protected veteran? Date of last employment. GoFundMe. Still main healthcare provider in freest nation. What is something every guy has pretended to be in order to get laid? And why did you all answer religious? Discount psychiatry. How can we make a world where everyone is happy during all space times? The ultimate hurdle for modernity. What we are all seeking, even if we deny it. After a while, people can only feel, through being sad, depressed, a way of happiness, concealing the end goal. Nobody is happy, but people don't want to tell others, so they tell themselves they are happy, etc. Oh, you're an optimist? Name everything going well. Funny how you never hear about the marriage proposals that don't go well. Religion held a special place in freest nation. For the worst, the people lacked an origin story, a clearly defined culture of their own, traditions connecting them to ancestors. The old ways. People turned to religion to solve their culture problem. No culture outside capitalistic appropriation. A cultureless culture. The extremely normal money system works perfectly unless something goes wrong. Again, hiring committee as seahorses. Aim for the moon. To get out of Hillsborough. Extremely normal political party. Best I can do is neither raising minimum wage nor improving healthcare coverage. Our character was growing weary. The misconception that technology solves problems posed by philosophy. In extremely normal nation they would rather pay millions to make advertisements about how people shouldn't drink alcohol, rather than give people money to solve the problems that made them drink alcohol. The companies making the anti-drug alcohol marketing campaigns were the same companies making the marketing campaigns to sell drugs, alcohol. A never-ending cycle of money-making that would eventually make everyone poor, even the rich. Followers of winemaker necessarily backward-looking, but only backward-looking, in response to what they have imagined, is forward-looking. Their imaginations were severely limited. If there is no reality, to either backwards or forwards, religion makes same mistake twice. If you are going to define yourself by your opposite, make sure you understand what your opposite stands for. If your opposition doesn't believe history is progressive, you won't have anything to argue against, and therefore, you will have nothing to believe. Fighting windmills. And here we are. Members of the extremely normal political party believed in the reality of progression, more than progressives did. politician doing exactly what we thought they'd do. Well, on to the next life. Fall has fallen. At least our character could spell quarantine now. Extremely normal politicians starting to secretly worry about the reputation of their extremely normal political party. Too late. Being a new parent, a hostage negotiator during the day, a secret agent at night. If an unstoppable force doesn't meet another force, it will become a stoppable force. As stoppable as unstoppable. I can't imagine what people see, who don't understand the rules of football. Must be wild AF. Huge people running as fast as they can at each other. People randomly yelling as loud as they can. Hitting balls as hard as they can. With sticks. A musical act in the middle? Sometimes they take breaks. But for the life of me, I can't understand why. There's another sport where they try to run on ice. This is bananas. It was refreshing when our character realized they weren't the center of the universe. Other people were far more caught up within their own lives to give our character the negative attention they thought they were getting. So at least that was a good thing. We also forgot our character wasn't the center of this universe. Forgetting, pre-remembering, can be good. They all agreed. Everyone's narrative did not pass through our character. Things are only better or worse when you contemplate history, as we do, as they did, in the past. We are the experience itself, and maybe that's all we have, nothing outside that. Our character was getting nothing but blank stares. No? Just me. Fucking yikes. Our character's psychiatrist told them they were concerned with their mental health. This disturbed our character. They thanked their psychiatrist for their concern, but they reminded their psychiatrist, I'm not paying you to be concerned. I'm paying you to help me bury this body. If you give them your best, tell them it was your worst. If you give them your worst, tell them it was your best. Always keep them guessing. So long as they can't figure you out, you are okay. If you don't fail often, you are building a false sense of confidence. Religion is the attempt at culture in a police state. Nobody can ever actually believe the teachings. The teachings necessarily didn't relate to our character's space-time. Detached by space-time, language, actual culture, etc. Their beliefs had to be based on misunderstandings and bad translations in order to be beliefs. It was real, in the sense that it was genuinely fake. It wasn't even real when it was being written, all based on what the individual was able to abstain from. A cult of negative identity, figures, empty rituals, a memorial, trying desperately to remain relevant, going back further, to be relevant, moving in the opposite direction of anything helpful, regardless of any other direction available, sacrificing those it pushes itself off of, to move backward. This cultureless culture is a cult of representation ad nauseam, representing what they can't represent, the representation more important than Christ himself, if such a character existed, and wasn't merely a Socrates knockoff reboot. The muted memorial amplified, personified, representations of Christ have more power than he ever did. The sacrifice Christ made, the dramatic death, a rebirth. Christ had to be a young man, like our soldiers. New trailer for Satirical. Tonight at 8, our character had so much character. They needed to create more characters and write about them. Extremely normal political party thinks liberal rich bad, conservative rich good. Because Sky Wizard, we put a man on the moon, but can't feed everyone? We have the means, yet we don't. A choice we consciously make. Our character assumed it's even worse to complain about people who complain about people. So our character didn't include these types of rants in their book. Our character liked to think they weren't one of the robots, but they knew, in a way, they were a reaction to a force, no different than the force itself, only mirroring it, albeit a funhouse mirror, with nothing fun about it. Our character couldn't get anywhere opposing the system. Our character had to do something different. Maybe our character was accepting, by seeing what it was, to get their way. They no longer cared if it was different. They only cared they were alive. The basics. They cared ergo sum. Character accepting applications for character. Oh good. Another day. Our character can't believe this shit. Here. At Amazon Cheeto Pepsi Court, we are thrilled to announce the publication of What to Do, an intriguing romp through the end of days, for the holidays. Buy it. Follow the link. Say what you will. It's better than my last book. The author, unprompted. You're uncomfortable with critical race theory. Imagine how uncomfortable it was to be a slave. Highbrow. For idiots. People. Can we have healthcare? Nation. Best we can do is a Marvel movie. People. Can we have a non-Marvel movie? Nation. Best we can do is a Friends reboot. Never try to do anything. Never try to be anyone. Just be quiet. Go unnoticed. And die quietly. What's the most pointless thing you've ever done? When it was our character's turn to talk, they realized they misheard the speaker. Others had been sharing the most important thing they've ever done. It took 10 people to share, before our character realized. Our character was playing doctor on the internet. Upset stomach, clogged sinuses, existential crisis, depression, lack of sleep, too much sleep, sore muscles, chest palpitations, joint ache, ennui, difficulty breathing, anxiety, loss of appetite, overeating, hurricane of diarrhea, bizarre allergies, weird rash, all signs of everyday life during our character's space-time. Everything our character wanted was problematic. Should we have them have no needs? Talk to no one, trust no one, and never, ever, think you deserve anything nice. You don't. Nobody does. Everyone will use everything against you. So be nobody your entire life. There is no such thing as happiness, only the progenation of the species. Kids' movies are preparing us for when animals will talk. We've always been communicating with them. Talking isn't a big deal. We don't talk to other people all the time. Listen to the unheard sounds of animals that surround us every day. It's the barks you don't hear, etc. The collective subconscious. Our character becoming the people they are, and the people they aren't. If they don't, they will not be able to hear themselves, let alone others. One and other, one another, now one another, one, and other. Opposing the word that follows. One nothing, that nothingness. Representations of nothing. The positive aspects of negation. Tonight at 8 p.m. If you wake up at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, every morning, you are waking up at 2 a.m. PST, 9 p.m. in Australia, 10 a.m. in London, 6 p.m. in China, 2:30 p.m. Afghanistan, and the equivalent of 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, if you work nights. Sorry, what were you bragging about again? Doing the something different. What does it allow? Our character would find out for us. If you find yourself in the same situation, and it didn't work before, pick the different thing. Sometimes this thing will be nothing. Do nothing. See what happens. If you picked the different thing last time, pick the same thing this time. It might not seem different at first, but upon closer reflection, many days after, you'll have forgotten about this incident completely. Our character forgot what they were talking about. Again, we never knew. It was the same thing. A fence full of trees. Our character was showering. After working outside all day, they had music on. They got out of the shower. The song they thought was playing was another song entirely. The songs sounded nothing alike, and that might be the closest our character would get to understanding everything. Our character couldn't make this connection. It ended up not mattering. All efforts fail. In space-time, the logos of the joke itself needs to be a joke. Once you see how language can make fun of itself, you can realize the target is constantly shifting. Art is another way of practicing mental flexibility. If our character was in an art studio, doing something to the tabula rasa. They were also trying to understand how to undo it as well. If things go awry, they will. Our character got better at their process, continually asking, should I make or unmake the previous decision? We'll see if this skill transferred. 2. Flexibility within their personal narrative, seeing the life of the mood and the death of the mood at once. Our character needed a job. While they applied for a job, our character needed an apartment. While they looked for an apartment, it might be the end of days, but my legs have never looked better. The author. If you need Popster to tell you Orange Man is bad, I don't want to live in this country anymore. This is the best one I've seen. Our character tolerated nation, just as they tolerated existence. If you can't do it in one line, don't do it at all. Wait, do you remember who you are? Our character reminded us. Youth from disenfranchised minority is glad to see more representations of their culture in movies. Now, if they could only have health care. One approach has us spreading out inward, searching for everything there is. The other approach has us focus on a center point that we ourselves put there. The truth bounces from pole to pole, us and the point. The same answers keep coming back inside this echo chamber. But what if the moreness was only more of the sameness? Despite my best efforts, the book is semi-readable. The author, a greatest hits of songs you've never heard and never wanted to. If Popster is only playing the hits, I will too. Last yesterday, the life of the party always pays. Military grade encryption, military grade subscription, circular, déjà vu, a pre-remembering, a post-forgetting, pre-remembering the beginning of another cycle, the end of another. Our characters saw themselves as they had already seen themselves. A remembrance of circularity, a re-embrace, by chance, around the circle with bumps along the way, living our life loop. Whoever realizes this, can go in peace. Could our character, knowing nothing will be lost, no effort wasted in the cycle, to space-time, difficult to realize, hardly nobody did, maybe for good reason. Shop for this book on Amazon. Dr. Pepper Bowl Championship and Cleaning Services. You'll be supporting local artists, in a strange way. Hey, what's up world? What's your deal? Being able to switch to the ends of the binary construction, an abysmal failure, or genius perfection, to appreciate both ends of the binary, what the humanities have sought since their inception, what religion attempts to chase, when directing our character to live via morals, the art our character was working on, etc., crossing the binaries, generating insight and appreciation. At this point our character wondered if their writing could be turned into an academic book. Maybe Popster could use it for lyrics? Could post it as a blog? Nobody would read it. Maybe that was a good thing? There must be some dramatic tension there. Who wants this dramatic tension? Nobody reading thus far. Wink. But how do you connect with the reader in a meaningful way? Is comedy your way of avoiding drama? It was. When do we start calling it a regime? The bad guys look a lot like bad guys. On the one hand, you got bit. If you build a wall, people will knock it down. If not now, eventually. The only constant, walls will fall. Only. Addressing the symptom. If you don't want refugees, create a better world. The new normal abnormal. Jen. Say pa great teachers find a way to teach what they don't know. The humanities should worry less about pedagogy. The sciences should worry more. Cautious optimist. Cautiumist. Our character was dedicated to their addictions. The loneliest. When nobody believes you. The only thing we ever find is ourselves. Probably should have never been published. Probably why all publishers rejected it. The author. Accepting the journey. An endless spiraling staircase. The insanity of eternal sameness. Something in the sameness. Beneficial? After an individual has passed beyond, the panic is a response to realization. Breaking from tick-tock time, sans space, before returning into the circle. the development of consciousness, our character, ready to go beyond themselves, appreciation of space-time, new narrative expectations. The version S1 is left to contemplate, not necessarily the true self, or the truth, merely a perspective, with which we can move forward, perhaps the closest our character will get to knowing what philosophy, art, literature, logos should provide, but often does not. During our character's space-time, our common motives in logos, unconcealing itself from its concealment, it has always been possible to view yourself in this way. You simply haven't, yet, or forgot, pre-remembered, for both bad and good reasons. This spring, Ivy League at Oxbridge, Saudi Aramco will graduate the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and at least 20 impeachable presidents. Some words from the book are, is, what, had, riveting, and, etc. The author. What does this mean for the future of big business? During our characters' space-time they were desperate for qualified workers, but they also weren't hiring qualified workers. Nobody was working, but everyone was also working multiple jobs. There was no oversight, but there was also way too much. Everything was true if it was bad. That's the only thing they could agree on. Inconsistency a hallmark of sanity. Hallmark a hallmark for mediocrity. Another brand of insanity. Existence a distraction from itself. Purgatory is hell. Our character ate the darkness surrounding them, so others didn't have to. Our character wished they were bad at being bad at things. Solipsistic personalities were common during our character's space-time, but not particularly unique. We could try again to know our character through their likes and dislikes. This might yield some information we can be comfortable with. The fish in the aquarium exists on a level of consciousness that allows them to live in the aquarium. Humans exist on a level of consciousness that allows them to live in the world they create. Living without the equivalent ability to understand it is torture. Uninteresting problems deserve uninteresting answers. During our character's space-time, pretty girls took pictures on cliffs. It looked fine, but it made everyone very nervous. Dark matter is the graviton. If we can't find the graviton, and we don't know what dark matter is, then let's just say dark matter is the graviton. This means gravitons are simply very big. They are black holes. Maybe we are inside a graviton? Change for the sake of change is regression. Truth is only what you currently believe. Duh. The easiest way not to progress is to think you already have. Politics oversimplify morals. Morals oversimplify life. Knowledge kept is a false sense of possession. There are no necessary evils. Only people who believe evil is necessary. Devil evil. De-evil. Cruella de Vil. Rationality is the ability to abandon or lessen one's faith in one's own presuppositions when signs of failure appear. Our character looked up at the stars, and couldn't help but think, we are doing everything wrong. Our character would much rather live in unimportant times. Freest nation places cameras everywhere, to make everyone safe. Truth the future. Identity is consciousness. We love most that which kills us. I know no other way. Our character thought to themselves, I'm not stupid. I'm just not motivated to think. Remember being scared of the dark? What was that all about? When our categories fail, how do we go on? What thought could our character think that could never harm anyone? Prison labor just slavery, with extra steps. And so, life goes on? That allowed our character to maintain deep friendships were the same that enabled the creative process. Both provided effective resistance against neoliberalism. This now felt very now, thought our character. Standardized poodle. Testing. Testing 1, 2, 3, Echo Golf, e.g. etc. Within the corporate academy, you had to be what you studied. There was a precast mold. Humanities search committee unable to decide on candidate. Jack of all trades. Master of none. Better than a master of one. R. Character's advisor told them, "You aren't smart enough to pull that off. You're just perpetually distracted," by convincing themselves they were smart. Our character set unrealistic expectations. They failed. Obviously. Necessarily. But this happened enough times that eventually they became smart. But they wouldn't have been smart if they first assumed they were stupid. With space-time, failure can become success. If given no space-time, failure is just failure. A good carrot before the cart. But only if there's a horse pulling it. Kinky kink shaming. Pope gets rid of purgatory. Make purgatory great again. Psychologists get rid of subconscious. Replace it with social media. The people now have nowhere to hide. Now, where to hide? Space-time only makes sense in the past. Having moved through it. Has anyone asked if vampires just have insomnia? Maybe they wouldn't even need blood if they got one goddamn night of sleep. Viewer discretion still advised. Viewer discretion being recorded for quality assurance purposes. What we do with the data, we don't even know. During our character's space-time, people got married to solve their sex problem, but nobody says, "I had dinner." Hunger problem solved. Marriage, the mirage of stability, merrily merging with the merely minor mirror mirage of marriage stability. But married people are the most sexually dangerous to themselves and others. They believe they've found a solution, and that always creates the most dangerous kind of person. Popsters attempt self-deprecating humor. Uninteresting. Whales are just cows that said, "Fuck land." I bet dogs think cars are wild. Our humans drive them, but they aren't able to stop them that well. Even our own human appears to be afraid of them. When we are walking, they always stay away from them. Our human gets mad and afraid when we get near the hard ground where they drive. They invented this car that is the fastest thing I've ever seen, and they didn't wait until they invented a better way to stop them before they decided every human needed one. Why doesn't the car start and stop like us, our humans, and other animals? Everything else is good at starting and stopping, but not the cars. Everyone else takes turns, but the cars drive right through, and fast. They are usually only on the hard ground, but sometimes me and my human walk on the hard ground too. I don't know how they know to avoid the cars. Seems like everyone knows where everyone else is going for the most part. But when I don't have my leash, and I'm on the hard ground near the cars, the humans freak out. Rationing, obedience, abstinence, the dark matter that invisibly shapes us, our thoughts, daily habits, etc. It was difficult for our character to balance being open to others' perspectives while also holding on to their own and pursuing them to their fullest. Unfortunately, during our character's space-time, to be right about yourself, others had to be wrong. The balance of seeing others' perspectives, holding our own, our character's own, not a slave to your rhetorical stance, in the non-polarized and ambiguous realm of creative play, to remain open and curious, addressed the individual, but not in their singularity, in their ambiguity, not merely identities restricted to economic terms, the consumer, the entrepreneur, etc. Our character's life read while they're living it. Others, us, constantly reading, writing their story, reading and rereading it. Our character was the culmination of all the things others projected onto them. Merely a mirror, merely. But this is how our character existed. They couldn't complain too much. They could. Others will not read this book, or stop reading it. At least, at some point, our character will still be here, long after the reader is gone. If there is a here, of course lol. Maybe uploaded to the singularity? Why not the multiplicity, etc. Commercial provides solution to pizza emergency. Actual emergencies left to rage freely everywhere. Conservatives tout their freedom. Anyone who spoke English found this odd. Free from what? Self-policing to the extreme. when not asked or required, especially their neighbors. Is capitalism working yet? Extremely normal political party takes brave anti-life stance. Never so much money spent on advertising. Never been so useless. Everything was an experience, best underwear experience, best shredded cheese experience. Rich people bad with money. Don't give them any more. Newsflash. Extremely normal political party doesn't understand something. Nobody wants to get an abortion. Nobody desires to have an abortion. People aren't getting off on having abortions. People would rather have free health care. People wanted the right, luxury to choose when and where they had a child, and who they had a child with. Important for the child's upbringing. But extremely normal political party takes bold stance against free health care. That would solve the problem. Reductio ad absurdum. Ad infinitum. So we are back at the abortion debate. Extremely normal political party couches everything under religious beliefs, to generate this never-ending support for their cause, regardless of the mountains of evidence and data against it. Their problem has a solution. So rarely does this happen in our universe, but in pretending the solution doesn't exist, and laying the entire burden on individual actions. Extremely normal political party keeps this now never-ending issue or controversy at play. It's not a good plan, but it is a plan, and the extremely normal political party applies this to all issues they take up. They don't stand for anything. All of this would become obvious to more people if more people received a college education. Reductio ad absurdum. Ad infinitum. We have the answers. The problems themselves were not complicated, or even interesting. This was one of the most maddening things about our character's space-time. Is sports? How many is hippopotamus? Why sky? And not sky? Bending space-time. The creative process. Another method of traveling through space-time. Our character needed to establish a baseline reality, if not for themselves, for others, to understand our character's baseline reality, so others knew how to approach our character. Boundaries must be set. After graduation, PhD in humanities spent every second proving they earned their PhD in the humanities, whether justified, appropriate or not. This was their reality. Like watching a movie our character had seen a long time ago, only half paying attention the first time. The next time they saw it, they created their own ability to anticipate. Narrative gymnastic training. If enough loud people agree, you could other anyone. Another, no other. Older generation promoted narratives of economic mobility, to keep everyone where they were, so their jokes could still make sense. Not very funny. Everyone stayed where they were for too long. Nomads. No longer nomads. Yasmade. The demarcation between public and private only hurts the public and benefits the private. They say, you shouldn't eat before you swim. But then again, they say a lot of stupid shit. The lives you don't live will live you. Our character was in the middle of every force, acting upon them, with and against them. If a bear shits in the woods, and nobody picks it up, do I look like your fucking mother? No one will regret that you stayed in tonight. Freest nation decides on democracy and the freest market, and stops halfway. Edging. Rich people needed a special league to compete in, aside from the military and police departments, needed to keep the poors in line. The government is only put in charge of things that will be poorly funded and improperly staffed. A government industry doesn't have to be inefficient, but rich people needed the proper context to be considered wealthy. The poor people had to be protected by the insufficient government agencies that rich people defend, except for the military and police departments, needed to keep the poors in line, bouncing ideas off as many different critics as possible, inside or outside ourselves. Sane, schizophrenics, creatives create more drafts of the project to refine the finished work before having to present it, stretching space-time to make it helpful. without making it paralyze them, or their audience, by breaking down the rigid barrier between designer and design, between author and reader, etc. The creative process is never over. This can be a relief at space-times. At other space-times it can be a curse. What the creatives learn about their finished project, merely part of a larger creative process, and therefore, able to let it go. Everyone creates, few let go, allowing them and their project to become something other, and more, beyond the consumer and entrepreneur. Make jorts great again. As soon as I get this restraining order lifted, I'm going to ask her to marry me. The people our character spent the most time with, they became them, they become us, etc. Our character was the undecided one. All their other life trajectories had settled. Our character was the version of space timeline still searching, forgetting what progress had originally promised them. Progress measured by what it is not. Metaphor is an optical illusion. Narrative is an illusion. Our character didn't know what they didn't understand. Things are only better or worse when you contemplate history, as we do, as we are having them do in the past. Now, what's the most pointless thing we could have our character do? And why would we have them do it? Multidimensionally space-timed. Going back and reading this, we don't have a strong enough connection to it yet. Perhaps when our character died, they experienced their life at once, no longer in front or behind. Our character was watching regular TV. They just now realized how stupid people had become. How could they warn them? They couldn't. Another great character building experience for our character. Writer, is there still existence in your space-time? Dear reader, being dragged along by all our self-interests. How you can get out of a loop of any kind. Keep reading. Sometimes the words are words, and other times the words are words, etc. There are two kinds of people. Those who understand the vicious cycle of poverty and the members of the extremely normal political party. After every single interaction with anything, our character was bombarded by prompts to review the services provided or not provided. This became more frequent throughout our character's space-time, but the service was getting worse. Collecting mountains of data, but not knowing why. Our character wanted the things most people wanted, but that didn't make sense. For us, our character was the only evidenced. Others in their space-time existed, or didn't exist. Our character likes food, playing outside, and sleeping. These were their most distinctive traits. Everyone liked some of these things. Others liked other things. Our writer considered inserting a graph here, but maybe they'll do it later. They didn't. Our writer wandered off course to check on how things are. Weapons grade absurdism. If everyone is going to be mad at you all the time, they are setting themselves up for diminishing returns. If you don't hear the complaints of the poor and disenfranchised, they won't hear you scream on the guillotine. They thought writers were the biggest threat to national security and freest nation, but really, they were the only thing keeping anything together, or at least, this book, etc. Everything happens as it should happen. Become one. To understand how you are not. Words our character tried to Google. Pretentiousness. Our character's spell check AI couldn't make the connection. The closest suggestion for their misspelling of amateurs was armatures, amateurs, matures, amateurs. The psychiatrist's receptionist got mad at our character for being overly paranoid, anxious, unable to control their emotions, and poor. Yes, isn't that why I'm here? Our character needed to do their part to help stop the pandemic of self-righteousness plaguing freest nation. Our character lost their phone in their house. They thought about calling it until they realized bad guy has Van Dyke. Our character went crazy, but so did everyone else. So it was difficult to tell. Wine name, Earth, Sun, Blood. During our character's space-time. When you are an adult, everything fun is illegal and addictive, necessarily. In a police state, Everyone needs to be arrestable. At any given moment, if all else fails, they can release you. It's easier to ruin your life than miss the opportunity to hire essential prison labor. Nobody believes a war will happen before it does. Each space-time assumes we are past that point in history. We are not. The false sense of progression through space-time. As long as we have a history, we will have violence. At least, it appeared this way to our character. War. Addressing the past with the past. Blinded by a celebration of modernity. Millions of wars are always already waging. You just stop paying attention to them. We have jobs for that. The news. Reporting nothing new. Compartmentalization allows disassociation. Uncomprehended its inevitability. The cycle needing to complete. Perpetual revenge. You've read this before. Revenge builds every community of people. Revenge brings everyone together, so everyone can be torn apart. All together now. All together now. A great personal motivator. If you can forget, don't forgive, or forget to not forgive. Forget why you started something. Then remember, then make it not about that, or nearly like that, but not enough to be a completely, substantially slippery simulacrum, a corporate slurry. Our character was legally allowed to consume illegal food science. Tonight at 8. A kakistocracy and not a meritocracy. Oh well, another day, ergo sum. Another day inside the graviton, attempting to please the algorithm, etc. The center of the universe shifts again. Our character needed to stop trying to be right, and start asking interesting questions. It's the jokes you don't make that will make you, etc. It's difficult to be critical without yucking someone's yum. Difficult, but not impossible. Not every judgment you have is worth making. You don't have to hold all the opinions you think. Not everything that offends you was made to. Our character tried not to make important life decisions when things weren't going well. Sometimes, life was just going to suck. Embrace the suck. Survive and move on. Not every task was worth perfecting, but some definitely were. Deciding which is which defined our character, or maybe not, but maybe it made them interesting. How do you not make important life decisions? How do you know which life decisions are important? You didn't. Others did. And the average was the story of your life, etc. If you've learned from a mistake, you are responsible to share it with others. Our character would do this from time to time, and it was one of their better attributes. Although they never really knew it. No such thing as bad weather, just wrong clothing. Art is ambiguity. Philosophy without humor is just thinking.